Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Attorney Gary Remer with Maddin Hauser. Gary, it's great to connect with you. You specialize in franchises, franchising, everything franchising.
Everything franchising.
That falls under the Gary Remer umbrella, and I'm looking forward to talking with you about it. I love the world of franchising. I think it is, from people who want to be entrepreneurs, but maybe don't have the idea, and they start something and they can franchise, to how franchise companies grow and give out their franchise everything. I just think it's a really great model. So thanks for being here. So I thought we could maybe start and you could talk about what franchising is, right? So for somebody who's listening to this, I want to kind of start off with the basics and then let's build from there. So what is franchising?
What franchising is really you are passionate about something that you do, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a repair service, whether it's a paint service, and you want to allow people the privilege to follow in your footsteps and mirror that experience. So everybody knows about McDonald's and Ray Kroc. That is a franchise. What happened was Ray Kroc started McDonald's, and what he wanted to do was to be able to allow other people to own a McDonald's at the same time.
Yeah.
So what it really entailed was duplicating the experience because you wanted the same French fry in California that you would eat in New York. You wanted consistency. And franchisors are the ones that start the system because they're passionate about their business and they want to share their ideas and allow people to have financial successes based on the mistakes they've made in the past and have gotten past those to run a successful business.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. Was a great description. That was a great description. And so if somebody just keeping on, I just want to kind of build from there. So if somebody's listening to this and saying, wow, I actually have a business that kind of, fits that what you're talking about, because people tell me all the time, oh, I wish I could, do what you're doing, or I wish, how does somebody, once they know they have a business that works, know that it actually can be franchised?
We sit down with them and talk, is it a franchisable concept? And there's certain things that we look at, is it a gimmick business? Is it something that we think may not be around 3 or 4 years from now? Is it something sustainable long term? We also ask if somebody can teach the concept, somebody to run the store with anywhere from 10 to 14 days. If you can't teach somebody to run the store in that period of time, it's unlikely that they will learn it. It's too complicated.
And when you say we sit down, you're talking you, Gary Remer, your team of attorneys, yes, asking kind of, sitting down with a business owner in a Q&A type of format, and you're able to ask them these types of questions to see if they have something that they can either stay the way it is or scale and franchise.
Exactly. We want to find out what the passion, what the dream is, and what it looks like. Yeah. We might find somebody who's like, is this profitable enough? Understand everybody has to make money. Can it be replicated? And the only way that you find that out is find out what's important to the potential franchisor.
Yeah. And I would think that calling you and sitting down with you is a phenomenal investment, because you're able to kind of ask them the questions maybe they can't figure out on their own, and then expanding on all of those. Because I would think a lot of people who are in that space, the typical avatar is an entrepreneur who's kind of wearing a lot of hats, has started a business and sold the business. They're not looking at the nooks and crannies of turning what their entrepreneurial, typically a passion of theirs that turns into a business that makes them a lot of money. They're not looking at all the business components. And so what are some of like the top 2 or 3 business misses that when you sit down with people, they say, "Oh wow, I never really thought of that. I'm glad we sat down and talked it through."
Well, I think number one, they might not have thought through enough that, like, can everybody make money with this? Because the way a franchise is structured is the franchisee pays a royalty to the franchisor, either based on a percentage of sales or a fixed amount. So everyone, number one, has to be able to make money.
Yeah.
Number two, they haven't always thought, is it easy to replicate, especially if they don't have multiple locations? I always use the example of making pies. Can you give the recipe to a handful of people, have them follow it, and come up with the same product you sell in your restaurant? If you
Yeah.
can't do that yet, you're not quite ready.
Yeah.
One of the other things that we start to talk to them about is trademark protection as well.
Yeah.
Is their name unique enough or their concept unique enough? Maybe it's unique in Michigan or in Illinois, but there's somebody else who's using the same name in Colorado or California, and you don't want to invest all this money and have to relabel your brand.
Yeah. Those are good things to think about. Okay, so now you've sat down with somebody and you've decided, or they've decided through meeting with you, hey, I want to franchise this. I want to take this to the next level. What's next? How does that work?
The next step is asking them really to put kind of pen to paper and think about it, that we started to talk big picture. What does this look like? But I also want them to start looking at what's important to them, what they might want to charge. We start to go through that. What's the royalty fee? How much do they want to charge to come into the system as a franchise fee? And I start to talk to them a little bit about the manual. And what the manual is their Bible to day-to-day operations. Or I want them to like look at their average day and what happens. Do you unlock the door at 6 a.m., put the ovens on to 400 degrees, and at the end of the day, you put your alarm back on, turn the ovens off, and shut the lights on, to start to think what really goes into this business?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of detail that I might not necessarily know.
Yeah.
Conceptually, we all can think through it, but the devil's in the detail. And we want them to be prepared that they're taking on a new job. They're used to operating the business, whether it's, they have a group of people that does restoration because of floods. Well, now you have to run a second business to be a franchisor, where you need to train people, you need to help them, you need to
Yeah.
assist.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? So it's an ongoing process that we want them to constantly think. And the one success I find is a franchisor doesn't necessarily do this strictly for a profit motive. They have to be passionate about what they created and really want to share that with the world.
Yeah.
I've had one franchisor tell me that, they want to change lives. And what they mean is somebody who might not have had a lot, who saved up and wants to become part of their system, can really have a lot of financial success if they follow the model and grow it.
Yeah. I've interviewed a handful of franchise people on this podcast over the years, and I would say that that through line is very consistent. A lot of times it started because they opened up a business that was their passion, and then it made them a fortune. And so, but the through line, the bedrock through line, was always they had a passion and they wanted to help people. So I want to go back. So I'm 53. When I was 30 years ago, when I was 23 and graduated college, I started an internet company with my brother and a buddy, and we were. I mean, I was right out of college, and so we always kept on going to these. It was called Yes, a Positive Network. I don't even know if it's around anymore, but they were monthly live seminars, and they would bring in, like Brian Tracy and all like these guys, and so one of the very first ones that I went to, this was 30 years ago, they were talking about Ray Kroc and McDonald's. And one of the things that they talked about is that if you want to build a business, if you want to scale your business, if you're in the franchise model or any model, it doesn't matter. you have to create systems like McDonald's. You should be able to go on vacation, they said, for 3 months. And if your systems are tight enough, you never have to worry. I don't know how realistic that is, but and so I want to kind of go back because there's a common theme that you've been talking about: the manuals, the procedures, the how-tos, and this, to me, if you're going to be doing a franchise and/or think community, running any business for that matter, systems are really important. And so, can you kind of talk about that? And what I'd really like you to talk about is, I think most people and most companies know how important it is, but actually sitting down to build them is actually the hardest part. And that's what I think kind of freezes people. And so talk about systems, and maybe, I don't know if you play a role in building those with them or how to make that a little bit easier.
What I do is try to give them, what they need to focus on. And my big philosophy is break things down into small bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
Because you're right. When they're making this jump, they know how it works, but have they ever written it down?
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'll use food examples, the quick
I know I'm
service.
hungry. You're using a lot of food
I
examples.
know. But sometimes because they get into such detail, and when I say that is I have a client that what they do when the sandwiches come through,
Yeah.
they've got it set up on the system so when it appears on the slip, it's in the order that the food is there. The lettuce, the tomatoes, whatever it is. But that didn't normally start that way. You ordered a sandwich and it might have come up, oh, I got to go back and forth. But that was a result of them seeing the detail, what would go into the manual, how to streamline the process, what can you do? And sometimes they've had discussions with people because I try to point them in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let them know that the best thing they could do is bring in somebody new and see if they can follow that.
Yeah.
That's really your key because you have to have the procedures in place.
Right. And who is typically building them? Because I find that sometimes that is the hard part for companies, to actually sit down and put the pen to paper.
Sometimes there are companies out there that will assist in that process for you. They don't do legal documents, but they're people that'll help put the manual together who have done it before.
Yeah.
Depending on what your industry is, they might have a series of best practices
Yeah.
that they might be able to assist you with.
Yeah. And a
And
lot of times, no, go ahead.
a lot of times it's a team approach. We kind of sit down together and brainstorm because I really want to interact with my client. I don't want just the email interaction
No.
because a lot of things come out when you start talking and you brainstorm.
Yeah. No, that's so right. So let's talk about that kind of that interaction. You're an attorney. You specialize in the franchise world. If someone were to say to you, "Hey, Gary, there's a lot of attorneys. What separates you from other attorneys?" Right? To what you just mentioned, I think the curation and the customization and the experience is so important for people today. So
I agree with you.
Yeah.
My approach is a concierge service. I want every one of my clients to feel that they're my most important client.
Yeah.
It's returning every call the same day, returning every email the same day, but also letting them know that I'm available in the morning or at night because I'm working with entrepreneurs that, depending on the nature of their business, they don't necessarily fit in a nice 9 to 5 window.
Yeah.
And it's making yourself available and getting to know them because it's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
The critical thing that I'll emphasize even to my franchisors, I tell them to talk to their franchisees because the one-on-one communication exposes you to ideas and thoughts you would never know about that.
Yeah.
We're not mind readers, but when I sit down with the client and I discovered, oh, this is what he wants. I have a client who has, a different idea of how often rent should be paid for his franchisees. I would have never thought about that before,
Yeah.
So it's something though that once I know that has to be part of what I'm creating. So it's really getting to know the client and making sure that they feel that it really is a team effort and that you're always there for them.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
substitute.
Yeah. I love that you said that. It's so important. I mean, returning every call, returning every email same day. It's so simple but for many people, it's really difficult. It's really
Hmm.
difficult. And so, kudos to you. I think it's great. I
Thank you.
want to talk a little bit about some definitions for the people who are listening and may not know. Tell them the difference between a franchisee and a franchisor.
Okay. The franchisor is the person who created the system. It's the Little Caesars, the parent company, the mothership. They are the franchisor. They started the concept. The franchisee is the person who wants to buy into the system, create their own location based on the guidance from the franchisor.
Gotcha. And how do you work with the franchisors and how do you work with franchisees?
Okay, I work with the franchisors in a couple ways. If they're startups, kind of what we had been talking about, and putting together what's called a franchise disclosure document that's required by the Federal Trade Commission and all the documents that go along with it, including the franchise agreement. Another piece that I do with the franchisors is certain states, before you're allowed to sell to franchisees, you have to register. We assist in that process, myself and my team. The other piece we do for franchisors that might be existing is we help to update their documents each year. Things change, they've discovered new things, and we need to make sure their documents reflect that.
Right.
On the franchisee side, it's a little bit different because they've been handed the stack of papers that might be 200 pages in length, and they're looking to make one of the biggest investments of their life after their home to buy into a franchise system. So my role there is to review the document, then sit down with them and explain to them exactly what they're getting into. So there's no surprises. And then we determine if there's any negotiations that can take place to modify the document for their benefit.
Yeah. Well, you just defined why an attorney is an investment and not an expense. I know that,
Right.
sometimes people, oh, I used to be in commercial real estate and people would say to me, well, will you just read the document? I would say, no, I won't. I'm not an attorney. I don't play an attorney. You have to invest in attorney because you need to make sure everything is done impeccably right. So wait, I want to go back and talk a little bit about, you mentioned that franchisors, it starts with a passion. So where did your passion for, this specialty and for law, where was that first seed planted that kind of helped you get to where you are right now?
Well, it started back in the day when I actually was an IRS agent.
Okay.
So
Everybody's
it's
favorite.
kind of strange where our paths take us, but I was a
Yeah.
CPA working for the IRS. And I got a chance to interact with quite a few attorneys, and I was impressed by their knowledge and their sophistication. And it really wasn't a one size fits all answer. It wasn't necessarily 2 + 2 = 4. They learned to look at things in a different way, and I was always impressed by that.
Yeah.
So I went to law school at night. When I graduated, I joined this firm, and we had a large pizza franchisor client that I started doing work for. And one day the owner came to my partner and said, if you're hit by the proverbial bus, who's going to take care of us?
Yeah.
So I became the second member of the franchise team. And I was enamored, is the best way to put it, with the way it functioned. To sit in the meetings, to understand the way the business had progressed, to understand how it changed over time as they were encountering different situations or the laws changed. So it fascinated me and I was hooked.
Now, yeah. And now you run the franchise group and it's great. Wow. What an impressive story. I mean, to be a CPA, to then decide to go to law school at night. I mean, that commitment is huge. It sounds easy in a 30-second story, but kudos to you. Was there any hesitation to think, wow, have this job during the day. I'm going to be at law school at night. I mean, that's what actually got you over the edge to actually do it.
The concept of deferred gratification.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I always had read, always had heard.
Yeah.
And I made a commitment that knowing that this is what I had to do, I can't play around. It was 4 nights a week. I remember, starting Friday night, you do your reading for the next week. You got home at class, you tried to do some reading so that you could just get through the week and it would all start over again.
Yeah.
But the one thing I liked though is I also had a group of people who were in the same boat with me. So I couldn't complain to my fellow law students who were doing the same thing. So I think at least it gave you a group of people who you could talk to and were supportive. If you were down that week, they would pick you up. Or if you hadn't had a chance to do something or didn't understand, you could interact with them. So, I owe it to a lot of the people I went to law school with.
Yeah. Well, it takes a village. We need people around us, to connect with and help us get to our next level. And it sounds like you build systems no differently than a lot of the systems that you're talking about. So
correct.
Yeah. So I think it's great. All right. So you head the franchise group at Maddin Hauser. What other things for people who are listening? What other what tell us a little bit about Maddin Hauser and some of the other
certainly
areas of specialty.
Maddin Hauser is a full service business law firm. We have a tax group, we have corporate that does mergers and acquisitions, we have an employment group, we have a real estate group, we have a full service litigation group. So whether there's any type of commercial litigation, we do estate planning, we do creditors' rights in case anybody's involved with bankruptcy. I like to say we do anything related to business. We don't do any criminal law, and we don't do family law. But one of the reasons that I love it so much here is that a franchise system is a business. So, if something unique comes up, like there's an internal employment issue, I have a group of people that can talk to the client. That I can, knock on the door next to mine and say, hey, they're threatening a lawsuit. What do we do? Because we really want to make sure that our clients are taken care of, that they start to build the rapport that if they always have an employment issue, they're going to call my partner, Ron Salish. If they want to get involved with some litigation for some reason, they'll talk to my partner, Marty Frankel. We've all been practicing together a long time, and we also have a great group of young associates that are scary how smart they are. I don't know if I would have been able to compete with them back in the day, but luckily I don't have to, but they're amazing.
Maddin is great. We're both in Detroit. I've known about Maddin Hauser for 30 years. When I was in commercial real estate, Maddin was our agency, was our law firm that we used. And it was great. It was great. All right, quick speed round.
Yes. Okay, make me wake up here. Okay.
A book, an article, or a TED Talk that had an impact on you.
I would say there was a book I recently read on cold calling, of all things, that I think is really unusual.
Yeah.
For lawyers to do, but it teaches you to kind of be able to pick up the phone. And I think a lot of people rely on email too much, especially I would say some of the younger people. They'll text you, they'll email you. But where I found a lot of success in life is actually having a conversation. And because my practice is national, it's not always one-on-one. It may be via Zoom. It may be via call or Teams. But to be able to pick up the phone and talk to someone and have live interaction, there's no substitute. So it kind of refocused me.
Yeah, and most people are afraid of the phone today. And
yes,
there's less competition if you just pick up the phone and call. Amen to that. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Best piece of wisdom. I think actually the best piece of wisdom was a toast. May the happiest day of your past be the saddest day of your future.
Yeah,
In
that's
other words, keep on looking for a brighter side, that keep on, there's great things in front of you, and keep
yeah.
moving forward.
Amen.
I like it as just a positive kind
Yeah,
of affirmation.
yeah. I appreciate that. Finish the sentence. Last question, Gary. One thing any business person can do if they have a business and they're thinking that it may be great for a franchise model and or want to just get into a franchise, they should.
They should call me. What I
Okay.
quite often do is call me up. I'll give you a half an hour of my time for free just to brainstorm with you. Because one, I'll learn about your business and hopefully I can add something to it and give you the hindsight you need of what you've done in the past and what you need to do in the future if you really want to make that next step.
Okay, where can they call you, Gary?
They can call me. My direct dial phone number is 248 827 1862. Again, that's 248 827 1862. Or they can email me. It's my first initial followed by my last name. So it's gremer at maddinhauser.com, and Maddin's MADDINHAUSER.com. I guarantee if you Google me, you'll find me. You'll find my videos I've done on franchising. You'll find more than you ever wanted to know about me, but I will help you in your franchise business.
Oh, good. Send me some of those links, and when I post it on my site, we'll have some of those. We'll add
That would
those.
be great. Thank you. I appreciate that, Jon.
Gary, thanks. This was great.
Thank
Community,
you.
I'm just gonna highlight a couple things that Gary shared, which I think are important. Which working backwards, pick up the phone. That's where business gets done today. Old school is new school, and it it is the way to do business is to pick up the phone. If your business doesn't have the right systems and processes to make everything run smoothly, like Gary talked about earlier, you want to kind of think about how you're going to get there, whether you're a franchise model or not. And lastly, make sure that you have people in your lives that are going to ask you questions that get you to a place that you cannot get to on your own because you just aren't thinking about the questions
So
that you
true.
need to answer to grow your business. And that's, I think, professionally and personally. So I think it's great. Gary Remer, Maddin Hauser, he gave you all of his contact information. Reach out to him if you need anything in the franchise world. You can reach me at jondwoskin.com. Gary, this was great. I appreciate
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
This was great. Thanks so much.
All right.